Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Arc Raiders talk. Today, of course, we're talking about Expedition 2 and the details you're going to need to know if you're going to make that choice, as well as advice and everything to think about as you're going into it. Right, when's it happening? To go on the second expedition, you need to sign up during the sign up window. It doesn't matter whether you've done the first one or not. This is just this week period where you sign up or you don't. It begins on February 25th until the actual departure and wipe, which is March 1st. From the roadmap, it once again seems like in about 2 months we're going to have our third expedition, which will be late April. I'm not sure if they're going to keep doing this 2-ish month cycle, but it does feel a bit quick. What do you keep? The maps we previously unlocked via progress remain. That means you can instantly go to Stella Montis, which is absolutely busted and I will be doing first thing once again. But other maps like Blue Gate, ones that required you to play X amount of rounds, if you remember that at launch, you'll have those immediately too. Of course, all non-game progress like cosmetics that you've unlocked, raider deck progress, tokens you might want to spend on cosmetics, you keep all of that. But what you will lose is most everything else. You're going to fully reset, meaning your levels will be back to 0, the stash will be back to 0, you have to progress all that with stash upgrading, projects, trials. You'll lose all your blueprints that you've learned, workshop levels, you'll be at the start of your quests again. But fortunately, there are quite a few ways around some of this stuff. What do you gain then? What's this all for? Well, you have those buffs that stack up. So if this is your first expedition you go on, you're going to get a 5% XP boost, 6% scrappy material boost, and a 60% increase to repair value for better repairing. If you've already done the first expedition, and this is your second one like me, then it's gonna stack, which means you're gonna get a 10% XP boost, 12% scrappy mats boost, and 70% increased repair value. So that's gonna start to feel particularly good at this point. On top of that, you can get 5 skill points in general, so 5 if you've never done one before, or it's gonna be another 5 from the 5 we got last time if you did that. To gain those skill points, you're going to need 600k in stash value for each skill point. So up to 5, that means up to 3 million in value. As a reminder, you can have the amount in coins. So let's say I nearly have 3 million in coins here, and then the actual value of what's in my stash right now. It's the individual everything. If you want to check right now, you can manually click everything and try to sell it to see how much value it has, which is a bit of a pain in the butt. But at the expedition window, there will be an option to see how much it's worth, telling you right out, so you don't have to do that. There's also going to be a new catch-up mechanic, where you'll need another 300k per point you missed in Expedition 1. What does that mean? It just means that if you did sign up for the first expedition, but didn't quite meet the 5 million requirement for all the points back then, you can now get those missing skill points. So let's say last wipe you made 2 million in value, which got you 2 skill points last time. And that means you missed out on 3 potential skill points. Well, now you can get those remaining 3 skill points back by signing up again, meeting the current 3 million requirement for the current 5 points, and then for the remaining points that you missed from Expedition 1, you farm another 300k on top per point you missed. But of course, you needed to have done the first expedition to qualify for that. You can't just do it if you never did the first one. Will this catch-up system be there every time, like next time? Well, from what they said in the patch notes, it definitely doesn't sound certain. So don't expect them to do this every time, don't bank on it. Next, we know we're going to get new options for an evolved patchwork outfit. This is the outfit that you got from Expedition 1, which is basically the tutorial outfit with some changes, like this weird blue sleeves, and say the red and white glove that it's got there. So we're going to get 4 new toggles and some color options, 2 specifically. Hopefully it'll look good. There will also be scrappy customization by getting 1 new scrappy outfit. Also, when it comes to the stash space, we're going to get 12 more slots. So if you did Expedition 1 and you're doing Expedition 2, you're going to have 24 total slots increased from before any first expedition. So as you can see, I went from 280 to 292, and when fully upgraded on my second expedition, I'll have 304. Also, we're going to get an icon that gives us a little indicator on what expedition we're on. So right now I'd be on 1, it'll give me a 2 when I do that next one. Alright, let's get into the skill tree plan. It is pretty much the same because they haven't really rebalanced it. First up, I want that movement speed and mobility, so I'm going to get Marathon Runner 1 and go to Youthful Lungs, which I'll max out first because the max stamina is more important. Then I will fill up Marathon Runner. That's my first 11 points. I go 1 point Agile Croucher, Revitalizing Squat, and in-round crafting. That way I can make bandages in the middle of a raid and shield recharges. Then I'll go Looter's Instinct and fill that out, but the raw numbers of this are actually minuscule, kind of important. So one important consideration people don't make for this topic, not enough anyway, is the fact that these passives stack and influence each other. So while Looter's Instincts is actually kind of an underwhelming passive with how little it actually impacts things, when combined with Looter's Luck, when you're doubling items at the same time and now you're speeding up that process, suddenly it becomes more valuable. Anyway, we'll also be coming up to Suffer in Silence, so Silent Scavenger you'll have to take a point in. Then it's very debatable. Silent Scavenger does reduce the sound that you make when you're looting stuff, but either way, I found Agile Croucher not that good. I can stand slow walk anyway. I find Revitalizing Squat not good, and Silent Scavenger has potential value. So that's what I go for and why. The remaining 2 points matter so little, it doesn't matter. I'm going Agile Croucher. We go into Suffer in Silence, so we get a little bit quieter while critically hurt, but who cares? It's honestly not very good. The main thing here is it gets us to Broad Shoulders, where we'll be spending 21 points to reach. Then we go Looter's Luck, and that's the survival tree most important points achieved. Then we're coming over to Conditioning. If you're running medium shields by this point, you want the 5 points in use to the weight. Proficient Prior speeds up your breaching, particularly potent at 3 out of 5, and then again at 5 out of 5. I'm investing all 5 points into it, and then if I haven't already got it, I'll be 5 out of 5 used to the way at this point. Then we need a few more points spent, so I'm spending them on Fight or Flight, with only 3 points in it to get to the next passives. When hurt in combat, it gives you a fixed amount of stamina, so you get shot and it gives you a certain chunk of stamina. 3 out of 5 is enough for a roll, so 3 out of 5 is actually very efficient. Between Survivor Stamina and Unburdened Roll, I do think Unburdened Roll's better, giving you that panic roll for no stamina. But I will say that Survivor Stamina does stack with other things. So when it's going, say you get the 30% speed up to how fast you're regenerating stamina, combine that with Good as New. So you heal yourself when you're low health, which you will naturally do, and you actually benefit from the massive stamina recovery of Survivor Stamina in that moment, combined with Good as New. Something to think about. Anyway, main thing here is to get to Loaded Arms as fast as possible. I do plan to go for Security Breach because it had value in the last wipe. Sometimes you get lucky with the spawns, and we can always respec to a PvP focus later if we want to. To reach it then we need 36 points spent, so immediately going to pick up Good as New. Stamina regen when healing, awesome. I'll get Traveling Tinkerer, so I can make raider hatches in the middle of a raid if I need to. We'll go 1 point Stubborn Mule to get to 3 deep breaths and max this out. The difference on this is actually really good. When you're fully out of stamina, it'll take about 5 seconds for you to actually get back in the game. Invest in this fully and it takes about 2 seconds. So it's actually quite clutch. Then we need 2 more points spent to reach Security Breach. In my opinion, there's no good place to put this. In my opinion, I think Stubborn Mule is where the points are going to be most relevant, at least for me. So that gets me the points, and then boom, Security Breach. So at this point, we spent 66 points, and we have a few to work with. With no Expedition, there's only 10 more points. We have 20 if you've done Expedition 1 and 2. But the difference isn't massive here. What you can do is get some ability through carrying momentum, effortless roll, and the benefits of something like Vigorous Vaulter. They did also improve Calming Stroll, and there are benefits as well to Crawl Before You Walk, especially combined with PvP related perks like Down But Determined, and importantly Turtle Crawl, which makes finishing you off in PvP really hard. So if you're doing PvP, especially in a group setting, this is a really good node. But otherwise it's not that impactful. So with my remaining 10 points, I could do something efficient, like putting all my points into Nimble Climber so I can carry the momentum, and then the Effortless Roll points, and that's it. Or we could change up our points by spending 2 in Nimble Climber, going Slip and Slide, going Sturdy Ankles 1. That way we can reach both Carry the Momentum and Calming Stroll. And with the remaining 14 points if you're doing your second expedition, you can fill up Effortless Roll, reach Vigorous Vaulter, and with the last 7 points, maybe go into Survivor Stamina, through Down But Determined, and spend some points on Turtle Crawl for PvP focuses. But these last points could go in a lot of places. The core comes down to the first section, then Security Breach, then that final section, which is pretty low impact. But one thing I want to say before we move on is the fact that they are going to rebalance the skill tree. They've confirmed this by talking about it. It was the design lead of the game that said so. He said that there's parts of the skill tree, like certain nodes, that he would just never take himself, which is a problem. So they are going to change and rebalance it. When will they do that? We have no idea. Naturally, it would make sense for them to make this change with the new expedition as a new form of content, but they very well might not be ready for that. So we don't know. Next up, let's talk about low aggression lobbies and matchmaking, which is absolutely real, which we had confirmed. If you want to make the most progression as fast as possible, then you want to be in low aggression lobbies. This is where basically no one shoots you. It will happen, rarely, where someone decides, I no longer want to be in a low aggression lobby, that person has something I want, whatever it is. You walked into their locked room, they might shoot you. But the odds are very low And so in this context, you're able to do everything you might want to do, like power to the important locations to get the materials for workstation upgrades, do some early XP grind where it's unlikely other raiders will attack you, do some early money grind by just purely looting and leaving really efficiently and quickly, again, without PvP getting in the way. Even if you are a PvP enjoyer like myself, I recommend you go into low aggression lobbies at the early part of the expedition just to get all that progression and the first stuff, get everything set up, at least the workstations, a reasonable funds to work with, and then get into PvP if that's what you want. If you've never done it before, just run free kits, run to the nearest person near you, let them kill you, do not fight back in any way, and do that a couple raids in a row and it'll put you in lower aggression matchmaking. Right, I'm not going to go into this too in depth because we're going to have a proper guide for the wipe day and everything you want to do in what order. But the best kit to farm with starts with this augment, the Looting Mark II, which is going to be available to you once you upgrade your gear bench to level 2. Here it is, the Looting Mark II. As you can see, it requires 2 electrical components and 3 magnets. That is really cheap and something you can pick up easily. To reach level 2 gear bench, there's a couple things you'll need: 5 electrical components, 3 power cables, and 5 hornet drivers. Then to get the actual electrical components and magnets, you have a couple options. As I strongly recommend, one of the first things you want to upgrade is the refiner. This allows you to craft things you'll need for these other upgrades, such as the electrical components. To get level 2 on the refiner, you'll need 8 fireball burners, 5 arc motion cores, and 3 toasters. But yeah, the Looting Mark II. You need 2 electrical components, 3 magnets. Where do you get this stuff? Well, you can literally just pick it up in raid, obviously. But you can get magnets en masse by breaking down parts such as Exodus modules, microscopes, ripped safety vests, and of course any industrial magnets turns into a lot of regular magnets. In regards to the electrical components, obviously we can use plastic parts and rubber parts to craft them with a refiner, and you'll do that mainly. But you can also break down stuff like rotary encoders, fried motherboards, signal amplifiers, and hornet drivers. So just loot anything electrical, technological, and you might find them or break things down that turn into them. Why the Looting Mark II? It's because it starts with 60 weight, which really helps when we start with lower weight cap. It has 2 safe pockets for anything valuable you find. Obviously, you get the 3 augmented slots for trinkets, which will be great for money farming in general. And you have this massive pile of backpack slots to work with, so you just get to stack everything in. With that, you'll have a light shield, and with that, you'll have a starting weapon. I recommend for dealing with arc, the cheapest option, a ferro, which is incredibly cheap to upgrade to level 3 by the way, so I recommend that as your bare minimum. Above that, to sort of upgrade from a ferro, you run an anvil, upgrade it as much as possible. Just keep in mind that traders are busted and you can make infinite money easily, so you go to the gun shop, 15k for an anvil right off the bat, we don't even need to have found the blueprint. Then 21k for the renegade if you have the materials to upgrade that. Right, next comes the project. We don't know what's going to happen with the expedition project. I've been slacking on this and I'm about to power grind it, but they changed this. So before, you needed other stuff like the whole rusted gears and all that. Well, now we need different parts, such as these Exodus modules, shredder gyros from the shredders on Montis. It's incredibly likely that they're going to change the project to require different stuff. What was repeating was the batteries, the light bulbs, and your basic metal parts, alloys, cloth, wires, that kind of stuff. We expect that to be there. But these slots, like the shredder stuff, the Exodus modules, expect these to change, and we will be back to highlight these changes and where you get the stuff from when it happens. But I'm not going to leave you high and dry. Let's cover some simple and effective options for money, blueprints, and XP. Right, my favorite money-making method is still Montis, so here's a quick highlight of that. Depending on where you spawn, you make a quick choice. If you spawn on the right side of the map, unlucky, but it's not completely worthless. In the cultural archives, you have these side rooms here. This is all servers, but the money is going to be in the darker areas here and here. Run around and open the containers and specifically check loose loot on the couches and chairs. This is where you're going to find trinkets, valuable items you just sell for money. Do not spend any time breaching the boxes here. Then you can come to this room, which brings you down to the seed vault, which nicely brings you to the extract so you can leave and reset and try again. If you spawn on the west side of the map, congrats, big money. If you're spawning inside the medical research, awesome, you just loot everything you can, all the medical containers, everything possible. Do not waste time breaching, pack stuff, and leave probably at the loading bay. If you spawned at assembly workshop, even better, you just loot every single container on the ground floor, then go up on the second floor in both these towers, maybe leave at the assembly hatch, or go to the loading bay and leave there. It's super simple, you get high value stuff, a lot of it can be recycled into important stuff that you'll need, such as upgrading early for good weapons. or parts you might need for upgrading your workstations. But of course, there are other events that are great for making money. So here we have the Bird City, the relatively new one. You go there and you just go loot all of the chimneys to pull out tons of valuables to just sell loads of trinkets. There's also Lush Blooms, of course, where instead of doing that, you open up like an interactive map, go to all the basket spawns, pull out tons of fruit, which you'll want to do because you'll also need to save some of that for the scrappy upgrading again, but tons of value there too. Worst case, you could do a storm husk run where an electromagnetic storm is on that map and just run to the husk spawns and go loot them all. Pull out loads of useful parts, including rocketeer drives, which sell for 5k a pop. When it comes to farming your blueprints again, simply combine high value loot locations marked by these red outlines with the blueprint type you're targeting. One of the first things you'll probably want to do though is an augment farm. So we're going to go into reinforced reception or the Manticore Labs on Blue Gate. We're going to run straight to that one armory room and loot all the containers in there. The thing that actually matters though is the black containers. So that's black lockers, black square lockers, or the black crates. These can spawn your augments, and getting these augment blueprints as quick as possible will help you have better augments to work with. I also recommend raider container runs. So that is your grenade cases, weapon cases, the raider bags, medical bags. These can spawn blueprints in the raider pool, such as your anvil blueprint, venator blueprint, the bettina if they ever buff that. I like to do this on damn battlegrounds in specific, pull up an interactive map and just remove everything and just show those types of containers, run and loot them all. For example, I know there's some in the outpost here. I know there's some in this bush over here. I know there's some on top of the station here. I know there's some on top of water towers. I just know all the spawns at this point, so I just have a little route that I run. If you don't have a route, just pull up one of those interactive maps, filter by those containers, and go run it. Lastly, what am I going to do for XP the moment I choose to do that? What I will do is I will hunt bastions and leapers, and I will do it on Blue Gate. Generally, the rule is to go to the bastion spawn here at the checkpoint, or the bastion spawn here inside of the outer gate. To kill a bastion, you can literally do it at the ferro level 1. Your goal is to shoot the weak point, the yellow joints, dealing critical damage. Do enough damage to one specific joint, it breaks, stuns the bastion. You then run to the side of the bastion and shoot the exposed core for an even better damage multiplier. Or you go to the back battery and shoot that as a damage multiplier. When that back battery is destroyed, it fully exposes the core from the back, making it a really easy target. You can speed this up by upgrading your ferro, by upgrading to an anvil, by upgrading to a renegade, or when you're ready, buying a hullcracker, a stack of 24 launcher shots, and put that in your safe pocket. Then you use a gun to break a leg, and then use the hullcracker to shoot the core and kill it fast as hell. That's like the fastest option, so you sort of scale up to that. In between that, you bring any gun you're happy to do what I just explained, and as many utility grenades as possible, even if it's snap blasts, but ideally something like trigger grenades, because in this moment what you do is you shoot the leg, break the leg, run to the back battery, break that, and then when the core's exposed, or maybe from the side, you attach these grenades to the core, blowing it up, dealing comparable hullcracker damage. Anyway, I farmed the 2 bastion spawns there and head to one of the extracts, like warehouse airshaft here, by coming from the underground, by going through the maintenance wing, coming up through here. Lastly, what can you do right now? Well, you can play the game, do blueprint runs, and save up any good blueprints that you find. If you have a friend who's not going to do the expedition, perfect. Before the expedition happens, you go into a raid with these blueprints and drop it to your friend. They then put it in their stash, you do the expedition, and on wipe day, go into a raid with them, they drop you the blueprints, you leave, and now you can learn them. I did this last wipe with deadline mines, wolfpack blueprints, a couple augments, and some other valuables like a venator. It wasn't that needed since blueprints are a lot more common these days, but the particularly rare ones, the impactful ones, it's worth considering. But yeah, that's my expedition information and guide. We're going to have a step-by-step guide at the launch day after I've done it myself so I can show you the exact process, just like last time. Until then, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.